It's a pleasure to be here today, and thanks for that kind introduction, Brian. It's fun to come back to East Tennessee State and see the great things that are happening. I've not had an opportunity for about 10, 12 years to spend a whole lot of time. Now that I am voluntarily unemployed, I get an opportunity to spend time here in the Tri-Cities. And it's a second home for us right now. But I'm here to talk about, and I know it says on the docket today that I'm here to talk about the 4 C's about leadership. Well, I've actually had a lot of time to think about leadership and the things that you do right and the things that you do wrong. And those C's have grown from 4 to 7 in this off season. I really want to talk about them in depth. And these are not my ideas, these aren't my C's. These are C's that I borrowed. None of these are original thoughts. They're things that I borrowed from guys like John Wooden, Bill Walsh, John Gordon, Brian Phillip. Guys that I've worked with, guys that I've never even met, but I've read about their leadership style and the things that they do. And my hope today is that you'll be able to take away a nugget or two about leadership. Doesn't matter if you're running a multi-billion-dollar business. Doesn't matter if you've got 4 or 5 employees. You're a coach. You're an athletic director. I'm hoping that there'll be 4 or 5 things that you'll be able to take away from this talk today. Before we start, though, I want to start to talk about a couple of things. First thing is technology. We've all got it. I've got mine in my back pocket, right? We've all got these handheld devices. I believe that it's changed the world. We all know it. But we've got a little issue going on right now. I believe this. We're trying to change these machines into people. We want to be able to talk to our machine. And we want the machine to talk to us. In turn, when we're doing that, we're turning people into machines. How do we communicate now? Hit send, right? Emails. All right? We communicate. Our primary way now is through technology. And it's not one-to-one. And communicating face-to-face is the most effective way to communicate. And I'll talk about communication here a little bit more when I start talking about the C's. But I want to tell you a story that happened about 4 years ago about technology, where I wish we still had the old rotary phones. We were playing the New Orleans Saints. We were winning the ball game. We're up by 3 points. Drew Brees is throwing the ball down the field in a 2-minute drive. We intercept. Britt Grimes goes up and takes the ball out of the air. Our fans go wild, our sideline goes wild. I look out there, and from the back judge, boom, here comes a flag. Defensive pass interference. I lose it. The Motorola headsets, Coach, you've probably never done this, come off, wham! I bust them into about 15 pieces. They're walking off the penalty. I'm down there, I'm embarrassed. I'm going, what did I just do in front of all these people? I'm picking them up, the equipment guy's trying to help me, I'm throwing them away. Well, luckily, we win the game. We go into the locker room. I'm in there with Reggie Roberts, our Vice President of Communications. We're going through the debrief. I look down at my phone, and this light is going off. Beep, 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 beep. Going. I look at it, and it says, Mom. Okay? Mom. I've never gotten a text from my mother in my life. Okay? It says, I said, man, I better read this. Something's going on. I open it up and it says, Kenneth Michael. Okay? When my mother calls me Kenneth Michael, first and middle, the shit's about to hit the fan. And she goes on to say, I am very disappointed. Me and your father did not raise you to throw a temper tantrum in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Your 7 brothers and sisters, your 8 nieces and nephews are embarrassed as well. And it went on and on. It was a 3-page text from my mother, the first one that I'd ever received. At that point in time, I can tell you this, I was hoping and wishing that we still had the old rotary phones, that I didn't have to hear about that till about 2 or 3 days later. But moms are moms, whether you're 55 or 25, 35, your mom's always going to be your mom. I believe this, before I get into the C's. To be successful, there's 2 things that you have to be able to do. And the first one is real simple. Always have a positive attitude. You know what the definition of an attitude is? It's simply the way that you choose to look at the world, to look at your situation. You choose whether it's going to be positive. You choose whether it's going to be negative. And if you will approach life, job, family with a positive attitude, you're going to be successful. It's that simple. You choose. And if you're positive, you'll greatly enhance your chances of being successful. And then the second one is this. We all want to set goals. Okay? I'm not a big believer in goals. I'm a big believer in setting milestones. How many times do you go into a meeting the beginning of the year if you're in sales and this is our goal? We need to hit this number, or we need to hit that number. When I took over the job with the Atlanta Falcons, I wanted to let our guys know that we need to set milestones and go through baby steps before we hit big steps. If your goal is to sell $250,000 worth of product, you can't be worrying about, I got to get to 250. I got to sell that first one. So we set milestones. Our first milestone, when we came in, first week of the season, I said, guys, here's the roadmap. First thing we got to do is we got to win a game. You're going to get an opportunity to do that this Sunday against the Detroit Lions. So you get one chance at a first impression. Think about that. You only get one to give your first impression, and you better take advantage of it. First pass of the season, Matt Ryan. First pass as a professional, 62-yard touchdown pass. That's how you set a first impression. We won that game. Great. Second week, we talked about next milestone. Coach, what is it? We were going on the road. We got to win a game on the road. If you win a game on the road in this league, it's like winning 1.5 games. Unfortunately, we didn't win that game. We went to camp and lost. Gave them another milestone. They were starting to believe. Coach, what's the next one? We got to stop the streak at 1. If you put together, in the NFL, any competition, you put together a season with no back-to-back losses and two-game winning streaks, at the end of the year, you know where you're going to be? You're going to be a relevant football team, and you're going to have an opportunity to play in the second season. So we put together these small milestones to build up, and lo and behold, at the end of the season, you know where we were? We were in the playoffs. And I think if you would have started the season just like so many coaches come in and say, our goal is to beat our crosstown rival, okay, or our goal is to outsell the other company. We've got to get better market share. You need to start giving milestones to your employees and to the people that you work with. That's how we approached it, and it worked very well for us. It's all about the process. Now, in 2008, I was hired as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Most of the time when you're hired as a coach, you're not coming into a great situation. You're not coming into a situation like the guy that followed Bill Walsh in San Francisco, that he retired, won the Super Bowl, and ran off. We were in a situation that there was a bit of a problem. That problem was real simple. The coach, they never had winning seasons back-to-back in 42 years. The head coach quit after 8 games. The quarterback was on his way to federal prison. Let's put it this way, the culture of the organization was in shambles. And that's the first thing I want to talk about is culture. Culture is defined as this. It's the shared attitudes and values and practices that characterize a team or an organization. And if you create a culture where you have honest expectations and they're communicated to everyone in the organization, you have peer accountability, and that's the norm, then you will address poor performance within your team. It's real simple. You got to have peer accountability. You got to be accountable to yourself first and foremost. Then you got to be accountable to the guy or the lady next to you. And when you have that peer accountability in a culture that has that entrenched in it, then you are going to have success. When I took over the job, the first thing that I wanted to do as a coach was, man, we got to figure out X's and O's. We got to figure this out, figure that out. You know what? That was not the way to approach taking a new job. I knew the first thing that I needed to do and we needed to do was establish a culture in the entire building. And we needed to make sure that everyone in the organization knew what we stood for, what we believed in. I wanted to make sure that everyone, when I mean everyone, that meant the ticket people, the marketing people, we're all in one building. It's not just a locker room. Everyone had to understand that they were going to be an integral part of the success that we were going to have in Atlanta. It wasn't Matt Ryan, Roddy White, Michael Turner. We needed to make everybody in the organization feel like they were part of it and they were going to contribute to the success. The first month, I spent time going around the building making sure that I met all 150 employees in that building. And I wanted them to know what I believed in was inclusion and that they were going to be part of the process for us to be successful. And when you let everyone know what you believe in, you are setting up your organization. Now, there's a couple of things that you got to make sure don't happen when you're setting your culture up. Successful teams and organizations are always in search of people, and I've already said it, that have a positive attitude. Good friend of mine, John Gordon, he calls them energy vampires. Okay? How many people, and raise your hand, how many people know an energy vampire? That is a person that comes into a room, comes into a meeting, comes into a situation, and just sucks all the positive energy out of it. Raise your hand. Hey, right? You know it, right? Okay. How many people have been an energy vampire? I have. Think about it, right? Let me tell you this. We want people that have positive attitudes. We want to leave people that have negative, dreary outlooks away. You got to get rid of them, or you got to change their attitude. You don't need them. If you have an energy vampire, you don't need them. You don't want them. You can't be successful with them. The other part of your culture, you can't have chronic complainers. What's a chronic complainer? Chronic complainer is someone that will have mindless complaints over and over. How many people have been around people that come in? Coffee's too weak in the break room. It's too hot in here. Does coffee and the temperature or the strength going to have any effect on us doing our job as a team? Hell no. Excuse my language. We wanted to make sure that we eliminated CCs. We passed out wristbands that said no complaining. Our whole entire organization for 2 years, football players, I had players come to me and say, Coach, can I have about 6 of those? I said, what do you mean? Roddy White tells me, Coach, I need 6 more. I said, what for? I need to give it to my mother. I need to give it to my cousin, you know? Says, I want them to know that, hey, they're complaining about the seats that they're sitting at the stadium. You know, they're complaining about where I'm taking them to dinner. Don't have energy vampires in your culture. Don't have chronic complainers in your culture. You've got to have a culture that's inclusive and that allows everybody to be a part of the process. We changed the culture very quickly in Atlanta. We went from 4-12 and went to a team that for 4 out of the 5 next years went to the playoffs. Won a lot of football games. Okay. We weren't focusing on winning. We were focusing on the process of putting together the right culture. When you focus on the process and don't, hey guys, we gotta win. If you don't win in the NFL, you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be voluntarily unemployed like I am right now. Okay? You've gotta focus on the process. And we really did that very well as an organization up until 2 years ago. When we came within 10 yards of the Super Bowl, and I hate that people say that, but against the San Francisco 49ers, we finished the game 10 yards short of going to the Super Bowl and playing the Baltimore Ravens. Our attitude and our focus as an organization changed. Instead of focusing on the process, it was all about, we were this close to get it done. We were going to the Super Bowl, so what do we have to do to go to the Super Bowl? And all of our focus was on that instead of starting back over like we did every year and focus on the process. And I allowed that to happen. And when you allow that to happen and you stop focusing on the process in your culture, in the culture that we had set in Atlanta, you're doomed for failure. In the last 2 seasons in Atlanta, those of you that followed the NFL know that they weren't as good as they needed to be. And it was all about not focusing on the process. So I want to encourage you, when you work with your group and you work with your organization, make sure that they all understand what you stand for. Make sure that they all understand they know what your culture is all about. The second C is contagious. This one took me a while to get to, contagious. You have to have contagious people in your organization, and they have to be positively contagious. Are you a germ or are you a vitamin? Okay? Something John Gordon tells me all the time. Mike, do you have germs or do you have vitamins in your organization? You've got to be positively contagious. And as a leader, it starts with you. It doesn't matter what you're leading, you have to be contagious. You have to present your vision to your team. You have to present your mission, what you want to accomplish as the leader. They can't be a string of buzzwords. They can't be jargon. You have to lay it out to everyone. This is my vision of what this team looks like. This is our mission as a team or an organization. Those are the 2 important things that you need to do. I'm going to give you an example from the business world. Some of you guys may have heard this story. This is long before Let's Build a Smarter Planet was IBM's advertising theme, or their tagline. The phrase was used internally for years in IBM, and it became part of their culture. They used that line as their vision and their mission so that everyone was working to sell, build, and design projects to make data more useful for their clients. It didn't just pop up that somebody came out and said, let's build a smarter planet. It was used internally, and that's usually what happens in the taglines of these successful businesses. Most contagious beliefs have to come from yourself. You first find success in your mind, and then you find it in the court or on the field or in your business life. What the mind can believe, the body can achieve. I firmly believe that. What the mind can believe, the body can achieve. You've got to be a contagious leader. It's important to have contagious team members too. I was very fortunate. I had an opportunity to coach Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez, Ray Lewis. All three of them are completely different guys when you talk to them. Matt was very contagious in the way that he worked. He's the first one in. He did all the extra work that you want your employees to do. Tony Gonzalez wouldn't say Heath. Now he's a media guy, so he talks a whole lot more. But Tony would come in, work, had a great work ethic. Everybody would look at Tony, what's Tony doing? And they would try to mimic him. He didn't have to say it. His actions on the field, his actions in the locker room spoke volumes. And then there's a guy like Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis was the most passionate guy I've ever coached. Always yapping, always talking, always wanting to make sure that everybody understood that they were going to be held accountable. That's what he was talking about. So they were contagious people. You need to be contagious. You need to be a vitamin, not a germ though. You need to be contagious in everything that you do. And when you have that mindset to be contagious, it's going to help your team. The third C is consistency. You have to be consistent in the way that you interact with your team. You got to treat them, you can't treat them differently based on the outcome of the game or a practice. Or you can't treat them differently because we need our numbers this week. All right? Or we're behind for the quarter, we're not going to make it. You can't treat them differently. How many times have you seen or heard about a team and a coach that the coach has lost the locker room? And that this guy started out, he was a real nice guy, everything's going well, something changes, and all of a sudden, he becomes an asshole. Excuse my language. Okay? He does that. You can't manage that way. You gotta make sure that your philosophy stays the same, and your attitude stays the same, and everybody understands what the expectations are. You've gotta be consistent in everything that you do. If not, this formula of being up and down and not being consistent as a leader is a formula for failure. You will fail if you're not consistent. It's also very important that you allow team members, you don't allow team members to be moody. Okay? How many people have been around moody people? Okay? Oh man, Coach so-and-so, man, he's moody. You know, or she's so moody, man, catch her on a bad day. No, I ain't asked him today, right? Or do you have to come in and what's the temperature in Coach so-and-so's office? Oh boy, don't go see him. You know, wait a couple days or wait a couple hours. You can't be moody. It's unacceptable to be moody. The best people that I've been around, athletes, coaches, managers, are the ones that have the same attitude, the same work ethic every day that they come to work. You'll see if you're consistent with the people that you work with, you'll see them steadily improve to be the best version that they can possibly be of themselves. And that's really what you want to do. If you're consistent as an organization, you'll always be relevant at the end of the season, at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, and you'll be where you want to be. Consistency is the key. All right? The fourth one is communication. Communication is the foundation of every great relationship. I'm going to repeat that. Communication is the foundation of every great relationship. It builds trust, and trust generates commitment. Commitment fosters teamwork, and teamwork delivers results. Communication, it builds trust. Trust generates commitment. Commitment fosters teamwork, and teamwork delivers results. Doesn't matter what you're doing, what your business is, what if it's sports, whatever. You've got to have communication. Without great communication, you don't have trust. And if you don't have trust, you can't build strong relationships. It's a fact, we all know it. Most marriages break down because of poor communication. You can say that about every team as well. If you don't have good communication on your team, you're doomed for failure or underperformance. People, they often think that communication is talking, but for me, it's not about talking, it's about listening. The best communicators are not the most eloquent speakers. They are the person that has the ability to listen, process the information, and use it to make decisions that are in the best interest of the organization. That's what a good communicator does. He listens and he processes, and then he's able to make a decision. How many times have we been there, man, he's a great speaker, or he's a great communicator. He talks a lot. It's not about talking, it's about listening. And communication has to lead to collaboration. When you communicate, I can communicate, and I do. I communicate with my daughter. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's one way. I'll give you an example. My daughter, she doesn't put her skinny jeans in the dirty clothes basket. You know what I'll tell her? Logan, if those don't get in the dirty clothes basket, they're not going to get washed. Your mother's not going to go pick them up behind you. They're not going to be washed. And come this weekend when you want to wear them, guess what? They're going to be dirty. That's communication. It's not collaboration. Okay? How many times have you been communicated by a superior and said, listen, Mike, if you don't do X, then Z is going to happen. That's communication, but it's not collaboration. Collaboration is so much more important than communication. When you collaborate, you are agreeing as a group to accomplish something together. And you've got to have collaboration. Communication has to lead to collaboration. When you're working closely with other people, you're going to do something special. We were a very collaborative football team the first 5 years. Not so much the last 2 years. And it was my fault because I let it happen. When you allow players and you allow employees to be part of the process, it's important. The best teams that I've been around are the teams that use a triangular theory of decision making. And what I mean by that is, when you start the process, you want to get as many people involved in the process as possible. You want to get all the information that you possibly can. And as you get closer and closer to a decision, what happens? A layer drops out in the decision-making process. And ultimately, one person or a group of people are going to be held responsible for that decision, and they'll make that decision. But you want to involve and get people involved in the process of the decision-making. You're the head coach, you're the president, the vice president, you're the leader of that department. You've got to make those decisions, but you need to bring everybody in and let them be part of the process. Ultimately, you've got to make that happen. When you involve team members into the decision-making process, you are going to have people that are invested in what you are trying to accomplish. The fifth C is connection. Okay? The great benefit of communication and collaborating is that it develops connections between you and your team. When you communicate, you collaborate, you know what happens? You create connections. And when you have stronger connections, you have a stronger, more committed, and powerful team. The best teams and the best organizations that I've ever been around are the ones that are most connected. Connection is the key to greatness. And lack of connection between players leads to below average teamwork, subpar performance, subpar results. You've got to connect with the people that you work with. There's got to be that connection. I found that coaches and players focus on becoming a connected team. This is what happens. The me dissolves to we. Okay? When you become connected, it ain't about me anymore, it's about we. And when you've got people talking about we instead of me, you're going to be successful. The most connected team that I've ever been involved with was the 2000 Super Bowl champion team in Baltimore. This was a team, let me tell you a little quick story. This was a team that for 5 games did not score an offensive touchdown. Went 5 games in a row from week 4 to week 9, didn't score an offensive touchdown. Usually when that happens in a team, that's when the blame game starts. Everybody's starting, oh, it's over here. No, it ain't my fault, it's this guy's fault. What the heck is the offense doing? What the heck is the special teams doing? We were able to weather that. And we were able to weather that because of a couple of things. The first thing was the leadership of our head coach. And he involved players like Rod Woodson, Tony Saragusa, Rob Burnett, and got them to understand the importance of being resilient and staying together. You've got to be transparent in those situations. When things go bad, man, you can't go hide in the hole. You've got to be transparent with the people that you're working with. And you have to use humor. I mean, it got to the point, three games in a row, you don't score a touchdown in the National Football League. Luckily, our defense was so good that we won 2 of those games. But you've got to be transparent, and I encourage you, sometimes you got to use humor. You got to laugh at yourself. Brian Billick, the head coach at that time, was hired to be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens because in Minnesota, the year before he took the job, he set the all-time NFL record for points scored in the history of the NFL. And he was able to use humor and transparency and involve the players to stay together. And it's super, super important that you stay connected in good times and in bad times. It's easy to stay connected when everything's going well. It's tough when things aren't going so well. It's important in a business setting to create opportunities to have connections outside the locker room. How many people here have opportunities for their employees? I want to see raise your hand. To go and meet together, have bowling, golf. You guys do it? It's super important. You can't only be connected in the workplace. You've got to create those opportunities so that families can get together. We would have family nights every Wednesday. When we played on the road, we would have family night for dinner. We'd bring them in. We'd bring the players in. We'd have guest chefs. What's a guest chef? Well, Jonathan Babineau, you're the guest chef this week. On Thursday, you set the menu for what we're going to eat. And those guys try to outdo everybody. You know, one week they did the Caribbean thing. You know, then it was the lobster and steak thing. You want to create Those types of situations where you can connect outside of the locker room and outside of the workplace. Those settings are very, very great opportunities to be successful. The sixth C, commitment. The leader of the team must make sure that no one in the organization is more committed than you. You have to be the most committed. If you're the leader, doesn't matter your department, okay, the organization, your team, your company. Everyone on the team and everyone in the organization must see the commitment. You don't talk about the commitment. They see it in your actions every day, 24/7. It can't be a sometime thing. It's got to be an all-the-time approach. Your commitment cannot have different levels to different people in the organization. You've got to be committed to everyone, and it can't be based on their performance, and it can't be based on how an individual's doing. You've got to be committed. If you commit to helping each other and helping every member of the team to be the best version of themselves, and sometimes we get lost. We've got to make sure that we make them the best version of themselves. Over time, you will lead your team and your organization to better individual and team performance. Commitment is something, as I just said earlier, you can't talk about it. It's something that you have to show in your actions. It's how you treat people. It's how you interact with every member of your team. When you're committed, everyone knows it. And your team feels it. Coaches often want their teams to be committed, but you got to be committed to them first. You know, coaches talk about, we got to be committed to this, we got to be committed to that. They need to see the commitment from you before they're going to commit to you and what you're trying to accomplish. There's no way to get the buy-in unless they know that you're more committed than they are. They have to know that you're there to serve, to teach, and to coach. And that's the order that it has to be. Serve, teach, and coach. We're all coaches. You know, we're not sitting here saying just because we don't work in sports, we're all coaches. We're all coaching someone. We're all mentoring someone. They have to see, hear, and feel your commitment. They have to know that you're doing everything in your power to make them successful on the field, in the work environment, and outside of it. You got to demonstrate that commitment every single day that you come to work. You've got to do it. And the seventh, which is the most important, is caring. This is one that really makes a difference in a successful organization or team. If you want to build a winning team, you've got to show that you care, that you love them. They've got to know that you care for them and that you love them. It sounds obvious, it sounds simple, doesn't it? That you've got to care for them. We get busy, we get stressed, we get self-consumed, we don't take the time to let others know that we care about them because we're stressed, we're busy, we're self-consumed, and we don't let people know that we care about them. When you care about someone, you show them that they matter and you make them feel important. Think about that. You show them that you care. Caring is a philosophy and a strategy that you have to have to be successful in business. You show your team that you care by being present. And as leaders, it's hard to be around everybody. You got to be present. You don't look over them. You don't look by them. You don't look around them. You look right at them and you interact with them. And you give them your full attention when you can. They then will know that you care. You've got to take a personal interest in their specific roles in the organization. You got to make it a priority to engage them and create ways to assist them to do their jobs more effectively. You've got to engage them. I know this. You've got to reinforce the fact that they are contributing to the success of your organization. We started off at the very beginning, we talked about the culture and saying that you went around and you meet everyone and you want them to know what you stand for. At the end, they got to know that you care, and you have to reinforce it over and over and over again. It's tough to have one-on-one conversations with everybody in your organization. If you're overseeing 50 people, you're overseeing 20. You can't do it every day. It's impossible. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that when you have an opportunity to connect and have a conversation with them, over time, those small conversations will add up, and it'll lead to the connection that you're looking for, and the connection that you need. My good friend John Corden, as I get ready to wind this up, told me the following story about caring. He was speaking to the Pittsburgh Pirates. You guys that are baseball fans know Pittsburgh Pirates went how many years without having a winning season? They started playing good ball. He asked the following question, and this really hit me when he told me the story. He said, who here knows that they can work harder than they currently do? Okay? And not thinking, you're big, well, what are you going to do? Can you work harder? You know what they all did? They all raised their hand. It's like these are professional baseball players. Well, so you ask them, why don't you work harder? If you care more, and you care, you'll work harder. It all goes together. To work harder, you gotta care more. When you care more, you give a little bit more time, you give a little bit more effort, you give a little more energy, and you let more love out of your body and let people know that you care. When you care, you don't know how well it affects your football team, your organization. You got to care about the people that you work with. People who are part of the team that cares, and I've seen it, they think, they act, they lead, and they serve differently. A caring person thinks, acts, leads, and serves differently. Think about it. How many people that you work with, God, he really cares about us. They think differently, they act differently, they serve differently. Caring needs to be a strategy in your family, in your business, okay, and everything that you do in life. I would encourage you again to make caring a strategy for your team or your organization. And when you do that, as I've said a couple times earlier, you will make the best version of your organization that can possibly be. Let me rehash the 7 C's real quick for you. I think this will bring it all around and put it into perspective. If you create a culture in which all members of the team can thrive, they will be filled with positively contagious leadership and team members. They will be consistent in their desire to be great. They will communicate and collaborate, which will lead to connections that will in turn make you a committed organization that is committed to the process. And when that all happens, there's no way that they cannot care about each other as players, team members, employees. It all fits together. I really believe this from the deepest part of my soul. These 7 C's, if you'll put them together, think about it. They're simple, but they'll change your outlook on your leadership style. They'll change your outlook with your family and how you interact. I certainly hope that you're going to be able to take away a nugget or two from what we spoke about. And I would like to open it up and have Dr. Nolan come back up here and open up for questions. But thank you very much. I hope that it was something that you'll be able to take away with you and take it and try to implement it. God bless and go high. Actually, Brian, whether I was a head coach or an assistant coach, the C's that I talked about were the same theory that I had with my room. It doesn't matter that if you're the president of the team, the head coach, or the vice president, or the coordinator, or the position coach, or the person that's at head of the department. These C's were something that I believe that you can use and implement, whether it's your family, whether you're the head coach, whether you're the coordinator, whether you're the position coach. Yeah.
I'd like to open it up for questions. Any questions from the audience? We're going to start.
Can you have too many leaders on the team?
Can you have?
Well, no, I don't. I believe you can. What you need to have, and I always thought it was very important to have one mentor in every position. Think of a position group as
A department in an organization. And we were very fortunate with the successful teams. If you have a mentor in the linebacker room, the DB room, the D-line room, that can be the messenger for you in those different departments, then you got a chance to be successful. We were very fortunate in Baltimore to have guys in every room. But I do believe that you can. And production comes first before leadership. I really believe that. You can have leaders, and if they're not productive, people are not going to necessarily gravitate to their message.
Good questions, Chris.
Taking the connection to the collaboration. Sometimes it's not easy to make the processes or communications to get that done. You expand on that just a little bit. You've got your message out there, you've got your members in the room. How do we evaluate what collaboration we really get?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to be by the production that you have as a team or as an organization. You know, it's pretty simple for us as coaches. There's one thing that we're going to be always evaluated on, and that's the wins and losses. But I think it's very important that you're always evaluating you individually, yourself, in terms of what am I trying to get accomplished, and is the message being disseminated the way it should be. I always felt this, that if the media came to me and was saying, man, you're boring, coach, you know? And the guys are saying the same thing. We're not getting anything out of this, we're not getting anything out of this locker room. You know what I say? Mission accomplished. Because we are all saying, we're all saying the same thing. And today, the messaging is so important because there's so many ways that people are getting information. You got the internet, you know, Coach, hey, the rumor boards, who's doing this, who's doing that. And that's trickling down into businesses. It's trickling down into, into education as well. So the process of going and evaluating, are you getting the connections? You'll feel the connections, both positively and negatively. I think the thing that you have to avoid as a leader is not engaging all the time. In the last 2 years, I will share this, the last 2 years, I got away from the process and did not have the engagement that I needed to have at the same level. And it hurt our organization and it hurt our football team. And you have to be able to do a self-evaluation as a leader. Because if you can't do a true self-evaluation, you're not going to have an opportunity to make the changes that you need to make.
I have a question for you about leaders that you admire. You mentioned your mother in the text that you received from her. She told me a wonderful story about you and your desire and passion to be a coach at an early age. Talk to me a little bit about leaders that you admire and coaches that you've learned from.
Well, probably the coach that I learned the most from was my high school coach. And I'll tell a story about my high school coach. Bill Rehart coached me in my senior year. Second game of the season, I broke my arm in 5 places and didn't get to play after the second week of the season. He knew that it crushed me that I wasn't going to be able to play. He asked if I wanted to start going on scouting trips. In Florida, they played football on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. So if our opponent was playing on Thursday, the next opponent on Thursday, he put me in his GTO and he introduced me to breaking down games and sitting in the stands and watching, and really introduced me into coaching. Coach Rehart passed away last year, or 2 years ago in August, but this is the type of influence that he had on me. Every game that I coached as the Atlanta Falcons head coach, I would get a text from him or an email the following day in which he would critique, still critiquing, play calling, why, this, that, he was still coaching me. And I think that's something that we all probably, if we think back about it, coaches are some of the most influential people that you will be around. And I don't mean this disrespectful. I can tell you every coach, from Hal Burr, who coached me in Pee Wee T-ball, to Ray Yacht, who was the last coach I had with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, everyone in between, I can name every coach that has ever coached me. And unfortunately, both my mom and dad are teachers, both of them were educators. I can't tell you who I had from first grade to 12th grade. It just, it's a different way that coaches affect people. And we're all coaches. Every person in here is coaching somebody. And I think the most important thing about coaching is, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but we only get, as men, we only get one time to coach our family. If you lose in that one, you're a failure. You don't get rehired. You don't get a second chance. So, as men, I want to encourage you, make sure that you're doing the things at home and coaching your family, because that's the most important thing that you have.
Great advice. Please, everyone, join me in thanking ETSU alum Mike Smith.